Hi, I'm Drew Hutchison, and you're tuned to Local Bias. We come to you from the studios at Easthampton Media on Pleasant Street in Easthampton. And my guest today is a remarkable woman, a woman I admire so much, Dr. Deborah Kearney.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you.
You look lovely.
Thank you.
So, you're such a remarkable woman that we were sitting here before the show, and it's like, well, what the hell are we going to talk about? Because we've worked together enough that I knew that, well, whatever you wanted to talk about, I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So how did you even get to this point of being so remarkable? What's your story?
My story.
A synopsis.
A little small story. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I was a post-WW2 baby. So that came with all of that politics and belief in America, which is a good thing. So I have a patriotic streak that also comes with a mix of, I wouldn't call it religiosity, but I would call it just, the top 10.
Okay.
Top 10 commandments are a good guide.
Okay.
So path and purpose comes from there. Oldest of a big Irish family.
Right.
So that comes with, how did I learn responsibility? That's where it came from.
You had no choice.
It's true. I did not have a choice. There were lots of babies coming along. But in terms of where I am now, when you look at the span of that life, I wouldn't call it the normal curve.
No.
I sort of put myself in there in the outlier. And so, passion and purpose. The three things I love to write.
You write a lot.
I love to garden.
Yep.
And I love to travel.
Okay.
So the mix of story, if we backtrack it and go, okay, where have you been lately? On the travel side, I've been to Africa, and as we were talking, it's the understory, which you learn about in gardening. So the tall tree is rooted, and that's its understory. That's how it grew, that's where its roots are, that's where it gets the nutrient.
Right.
So from my gardening, from my travel, I have learned that when you're writing, you're immersed in the experience. But if you look at the characters moving on the stage, there's a little bit more to each one of them every time.
And they're all interrelated.
Yes.
There's a whole biome going on.
We are one.
We are one.
We are, and what we want to do is hold each other's hands and hold each other in harmony and in space. So I'll tell three brief stories.
Okay.
Travel, gardening, and writing. I, in 2023, traveled to Kenya, Nairobi. I ended up at an orphanage. Isn't really a good word.
Yeah, you're not an orphan.
I did not, and so I began a journey that I didn't expect at an orphanage where I learned what it means to be an orphan, what it means to be in a society where there was British colonialism.
Still.
And you're growing up with a level of mastery that is in between. So you're growing up in a British colonial school system while you're living in an orphanage, creating a family out of who gets transplanted. So who's coming, where were you? Oh, you were found on the side of the road? Okay. Where'd you come from? Well, I got returned. I was adopted and I got returned. So now I have the real stories of who are the kids. So my job at the orphanage was anything I could choose to do. I'm a yoga teacher. I taught yoga. I'm a gardener. We went into the arboretum on this beautiful property and we began to build a maze. And the wonderful thing about maze building is that it's just like life. So when you're writing and you're journaling and you're keeping track of what these kids are doing, you're watching them make a path that's got a start, a stop, a twist, a turn, and maybe a dead end. Just like life.
Right.
So we made a maze. and we learned from each other from our 6-year-old point of view. Since none of us ever grow up, we've always still got a 6-year-old point of view, and so on. So that resulted in the kids being able to have a challenge the first time they had ever created their own path in life. And that was, for them,
empowering.
That was an outcome that you don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
So saying yes to life always with your path and your purpose, letting things flow,
mm-hmm.
letting the kids flow in that direction. And there's a big mountain of dirt. So not really a big mountain,
Okay.
it's just a pile of dirt, really. But in order to train, because I was going to climb Kilimanjaro, I would try to, now these are Kenyans, so of course they're completely going to outrun me. We started out with them 10 feet back. Okay, let's go. Run up the hill. They'd beat me every time. I put them 50 feet back. They're still beating me. And at the top of the mountain, with their lovely imaginations, they said, "Look, Deb, we can see Kilimanjaro." And in fact, it was the right direction. And in fact, their imagination allowed them to say, "You can wave at the top." So the next story is to talk about going to Kilimanjaro, which is the roof of Africa, 19,537 feet, 5 ecosystems, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Starts at the rainforest, goes into heather moorland, an alpine desert, moving on up until you're in the Arctic zone, which, because of climate change, there is no glacier. It's melted away.
Oh my God, all the pictures I think of always have a snow cap.
No more. That's all gone. But the trek is not to be undervalued, because in that story of walking, you travel with people who've come from all over the world, and the goal is the summit.
Mm-hmm.
It was very early on that I realized there's something so unique and unusual about these porters and guides.
Mm-hmm.
How do you become this professional? So I began to listen to their stories, and I would go into their tent at night. And I wouldn't cook, because there'd be 10 of us in a tent with a canister of gas on which was cooking the dinner inside a nylon tent, which did not ever somehow burn down. And I would listen to their stories in Swahili.
Did you understand Swahili?
They would translate.
Oh, okay.
For me, some of it. There were some, of course, things they didn't really want to translate. But how you become a guide is you hang your little body off the fence at the bottom of Kilimanjaro and hope somebody doesn't show up with all the support that's going up the mountain, that you might get picked to throw 60 pounds on your back, 10 on your head, and another 10 to 15 or 20 on the front of you. Nobody double checks your equipment. You got shoes? Great, not our problem. Your goal is to make it up the top of the mountain so that you can get tip money. And that's how you start to become a porter who becomes a guide in climbing, becoming a licensed guide, Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
All the money. So when you're bartering the tip money from your perspective of whatever your economic means is, you don't really know where that money goes until you get down the bottom of the mountain and you see that 10 hands are waiting for that person's tip money. School fees. School is not free in Tanzania. What it costs for the week for the family to eat. What it costs for that person to outfit themselves so they can go right back up the mountain, and maybe this time they get shoes. So it's in life, what you see in the person who's right in front of you has a whole story.
Right.
They have a culture, they came from someplace, they were born into something. There's the who, what, when, where, and then I'm interested in what's the why of that life.
And if you haven't interacted with these people, in a way they don't exist. And yet these are compelling stories.
These are the compelling stories. And so the third story is, what about that mountain? What does that mountain know about every single foot that's traveled on their paths?
Mm-hmm.
There are myths that they don't tell you about the Kilimanjaro. And they have to do with the gods who shape your trip. That if you're aware of it and you have the vibrational space to wonder why you got a little bit close and yet somehow you came back to on the trail. You were thirsty and there was some water in a cold glacial stream that needed to be filtered, but there it was when there wasn't, when it wasn't expected. So the mountain is as alive in its support of your journey as if it were talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
It will show you, if you look, the wildlife. So there are monkeys that don't show themselves unless you know how to be quiet in an orchid area in the rainforest. And then you get to, first they'll howl, then make some noise, and then they'll show, depending on your receptivity.
Right.
So there's a whole story of, I'm not a mountain in the sense that I'm dead. I'm as alive as I ever was.
Right. Well, what is life? What is consciousness? It comes back to this, what you said earlier. There is no separation. There is no separation. That is what we've been taught somehow, that we're each individuals. And yes, we are. We have our own, nodes of experience. But ultimately, we are each other. We are the mountain. We are the ground we walk upon. And that idea that we're separate, I think, has caused so much harm.
It has, because it takes away the harmony.
Ah, well said. Well, I think of it in terms of music, too. I had an epiphany once. I was walking along at UMass on North Pleasant Street, and it occurred to me that the world was in harmony at that exact moment, and I could choose to hear it and join it, or I could tune it out the way most people generally do in our lives. Mm-hmm. It's always there. There's always harmony. Do you want to vibrate with that? There's nothing stopping you. You just have to allow yourself to do it. But we're not taught to hear it, and we're not taught to join it. And yet that is really, I think that's a far greater reality than anything we see on television, for instance. Sorry, folks.
Right, right. No, there's, yes. That vibration requires the silence to hear.
Right. You have to be open to it.
Yes.
So the world is a magical place. There is magic always going on, constantly.
Yes.
And then there's, so anyway, that's my thesis. But this African story, of course, brings you back to writing the stories, not that particular story of the mountain, but you're writing a story about the orphanage.
Yes. I've written stories about the orphanage, partly for their newsletter so that they would have ways to express how money is used. Mm-hmm. So the orphanage is 20 hectares, and what they do with that is half is raising their own food so that they can feed the children. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine an economy of scale, at any one time there are approximately 30 children in the British school system, all the way to boarding school. The cost of feeding, housing, educating, clothing, paying the support staff is it's $11,000 per month in American dollars.
Right.
So you're building lives on very little money.
Right.
But you're building the expression.
Is amazing.
Yes, the impact is amazing.
So how do you raise money for that, though? Do they just look, I mean, is there a system in place?
The donors are farmers, mostly American farmers, who take a percentage of their farm income and donate it to this orphanage.
That must be more difficult now with these tariffs destroying the farm economy.
particularly because it's California farm economy.
Oh.
So they have a commitment, but they could cut in half what they do.
Right.
Kenya doesn't provide any support to the orphans. They provide monitoring help. You could look at it as the support of saying, we legitimize your operation.
Right.
That's about what they do. And that's because Kenya's got a whole different economy and a different way of looking at what happens, what's the value if you don't have a tribe. So it's not to criticize their culture.
So when you're an orphan, you also lose your tribe?
You do.
So then what happens when these kids age out of the orphanage? What tribe do they return to?
They have to create, well, their family is their family is the orphanage. At 18 years old, they're required to leave the orphanage. They get 6 months of income support, and most often they go on for secondary education.
Okay, so,
which the orphanage pays for.
All right.
And they get sponsors. You
Okay.
might get a sponsor from many countries in the world, because people like myself who visit from America have a perspective of education. There are others that come from Denmark, Norway, Germany. So there's lots of ways that you can get sponsorship.
But it's also provided fertile ground for your own writing, because you've been working on a project. Did you want to talk about that at all?
I'm working on an animation film
Right.
of what it's like to come into an orphanage where everybody is a transplant.
Mm-hmm.
The plants are transplanted. What you eat is a transplant of a seed that grows there. You are, as an individual, a transplant, making your own family,
Right.
but coming together. And so that the animation in the film is to really express this in visual language. What's it look like
Right.
to have nothing and then have just this little bit of something?
Because this has been years in the making.
Yes.
You've been writing and drafting and revising for at least 2 years that I
Yes.
know of.
Yes. And
So,
yeah.
as far as this process goes, you weren't really, even though you love to write, were you a writer before this?
Reference writer. So my reference books are Americans with Disabilities Act, and for which I won a national award, but that those are case studies to teach architects that you're meeting the code doesn't meet the need.
Right.
So that's an outcropping of my work to do that. Anything to do with human factors,
Right.
ergonomics,
Right.
all those reference books. But reference writing is not creative writing.
Well, and that's the thing, is so shifting
difference.
gears and being able to take to do the reference work, you have to know how to research your subject.
Yes.
And so, and I'm familiar with your maze story.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information. In fact, it's a bit of an overload at times, because there's so much to know about the lion and the monkeys and the elephants, and I mean, they all have a
Right.
story, and there's a lot of information there.
Yes.
So you know how to grab the information, but the overarching story is what's really most compelling, and that is that they all belong to each other. That there's
Yes.
the biome. That we're all connected. I mean, it's a transcendent story. It's the one that actually all humans should hear, in my view. I love your story.
It is. Thank you. It is a good story, because we talk about Africa being the only place where the migration of animals should be tipped to the bottom, and now it's geographically cutting off so that you can't migrate even
Right.
if you're in the wild. So there's so much to learn about the facts and the myths of the animals, and yes, that's included. So, and there's a lot of Swahili, because it's an unknown language in the world.
How do you mean that? I mean,
It's lyrical, it's musical, and it's good for people to hear the names of the children in the orphanage: Mahaba, Amboro. They're not Brenda, they're
Right.
not Tom.
actually, I remember I love Star Trek and Lieutenant Uhuru,
Uh-huh.
and I think Uhuru is Swahili,
Ah, okay.
but I don't remember what it means.
Right, and all of their names are birth based on where the sun, the moon, and the stars were on the day of the birth. So a Swahili name is given in a tribe based on this day of expectation will follow that person through their life. So if it's faith in Swahili, if it's charity, if it's hope, if the things that same message always.
Right.
That's the universal message.
So there's a lot of symbolism interwoven into their culture.
Yes.
And it's kind of, I think of like fish, they don't know that they're swimming in water. We don't know how much we are actually living in our own culture and what that culture really is. We just think this is the world.
We do. And we need, and the only way to get out of that is to step back and allow yourself that view of immersion so that you, if you're in other cultures, to be trusted enough to actually have them tell you,
yeah,
this is our way, this is our view, and it has history. The Chaga tribe that lives at the base of Kilimanjaro has been farming that land as long as the mountain has been evolving. It's the richest farmland in Tanzania, and everything grows there, so that you are completely self-sufficient for food if you are a Chaga tribal member, and you can continue to create. Everything is barter, in addition.
Well, how did the corporations make a profit on them?
They're not. The Chaga are not, no.
Because it seems like that's what happens, that our Western culture is one of runaway capitalism, in a way. And I'm just surprised that it hasn't tainted.
They wouldn't know what to do. I need a door, so I bring what I have there's a negotiation around the price of a door.
Right.
Based on what I have in my surplus.
Right.
Of food, or my weavings, or my jewelry, or
actually, that's how you and I work.
Yes, correct. We barter.
We barter. I hadn't even thought about it. It just seemed natural.
Yes, right. Why do we need money? Because the fair exchange of that doesn't really give value.
So I saw the short of the animation, basically a preview of the animated movie.
Yes.
But that was about a month ago, I think I saw that. So where are you with right now with the animators? They're in Greece?
No, all Kenyan.
They're all Kenyan. So where did I get Greece from?
It was one of the places I traveled and and taught yoga. Yes.
Oh.
No,
okay.
these are all. No, it's a Kenyan story. It needs to be done by Kenyans.
Okay.
So it's a different. Even that is how do we build a team?
Right.
And one of the great things about building a team in another culture, when you have an expectation, is you're not going to do it in the time you think you're going to do it, because Americans think that they can get it done in 15 minutes, and the job is...
It takes 2 hours,
2
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. So everything about building a team in a Kenyan culture is pulley-pulley, steady, slow,
right,
slow. Rather, if we're going to do this, it's got to be the perfect storyboard. And then we'll move that storyboard into animation. And then we'll add the voices. So for me to split it up and say, I want to see every single character in a rendering, they don't see things that way.
So that's been an education for you, I bet, because you are dynamic, and I know you're a go-getter. So there is that part of you that's like, okay, I want to bear down, concentrate, get this work done.
And do it like the Ford, the assembly line.
Right. Once I figure it out.
This guy is only going to turn this screw. They don't like that. I don't mean to refer to them as they. It's that my team will say, we need the whole visual language in order to understand what you want to do in the animation. We can't just be pulling characters in. They need to be rendered in a different way. So it's a good, I would not call it a failure on the original animated short film. I would call it a learning experience to see, here are our strengths, here are our limitations, and how do we talk about those things in order to get a good quality film.
Right, absolutely.
So, and I want to be, there is a relative sense of value when you have an American view of what's valuable, and it's always best to look at that person's strengths and encourage that growth.
Right.
And not undermine on the things that are not going to be achieved.
Right.
And that's also a personal wisdom. When you're in your wisdom years, as I am, you're looking at, okay, what do I know that I hopefully don't have to keep repeating so that I can use my wisdom to move along and then to nurture those who I'm trying to support.
You talk about the not repeating. When I was a teacher, what I found so frustrating is that I would get a new batch of kids in, and I had to start back at ground zero every single year, repeating this exact same, because that's what they need.
That's their start point is the most important thing.
Right.
Not ours.
Right.
So we have to keep that in mind as teachers, as nurturers. My role is more nurturing than the exact teaching.
No, but and the thing is, as I worked with you, because I did audio work, oddly enough, because to me it was a very different way of writing a play. I used to teach script writing, and so I have in my head, oh, you do it this way, and instead you wrote the dialogue and all these lyrics to these amazing songs, but it was done through audio means as opposed to just writing it up.
Right.
And throughout this experience from my working with you, there were changes being made. And so so part of it is the evolution of understanding the story, but also part of it is the evolution of understanding, how do I hold the attention of the audience? What am I really trying to say? You can't always fit everything in.
Right.
So how is the editing process coming? Are you cutting back on any characters, or there's so much that goes into it?
So our audio engineered version of the play was 2 hours.
Right.
And I believe 20 minutes. It is at 90 minutes.
Okay.
In 3 30-minute segments.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to say Betty the Beetle said, because no, Betty the Beetle's right in front of you.
Right.
So you shave time that way. And the songs were, quite frankly, too long.
Okay. And you had a lot of songs.
34. So that was, now we are shortening them, making them dynamically engaging.
Right.
But we want people to sing and dance.
Right. Well, the songs that I heard were very catchy. So, you have a good taste in music, in my view.
I have good taste in the poetic opportunity to write a lyric.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're an excellent lyricist.
So that we're okay at. And who would have thought that I am now AI oriented as a bridge. So
there's a whole other conversation actually I'd love to have, but we've already run out of time.
Okay.
But that is a fascinating, because you and I did talk about the implications of that, and there's a lot to talk about. So maybe we can continue that conversation in the future. But for now, Deborah,
thank you very much.
You know I love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Local Bias. My guest has been Dr. Deborah Kearney, remarkable woman, as I said, and I hope that you have a great experience in your future. Thanks for joining us. Take care.